All right, welcome back to the show. I'm very pleased to have a special guest here this week, Mr. Chuck Woolery, and I'm sure everybody knows who he is. We've talked about his background. Mr. Woolery, welcome to the Don Smith Show.
Thank you, Don. It's nice to be with you.
Well, personally, for me, this is a real honor and a pleasure, and I really appreciate you coming on the show. Everybody knows about Chuck Woolery, the game show host, the shows you were on. I mean, just an amazing list of shows. What many people might not know is you actually got your start in the entertainment industry as a singer. Could you tell my listeners a little bit about that?
Well, I did. I left the Pillsbury Company and went to Nashville on a quest to become a singer. I'm trying to think. I was there probably about 10 years, close to 9 or 10 years. My career was once described by a very famous person as being riding the crest of an undertow. It was not extraordinarily successful, but it put me kind of on my path to doing game shows, oddly enough.
You did have a top 40 hit. Not everybody can say that.
Well, I did. I was able to, muster that. I got one, and then I got one actually in the country vein called Painted Lady that I wrote with Nora Wilson, who wrote, Behind Closed Doors. He's done Kenny Chesney, Reba McEntire. He produced all their stuff, and a real good friend of mine in Nashville as well.
Well, that leads me to the inevitable question. How does Chuck Woolery go from being a performer, a singer, to being the host of some of the most popular game shows in history?
Well, someone took a record that I had done at RCA and gave it to Jonathan Winters, who I was a huge fan of, and all my life since I was a kid in junior high school. And he cold called me because of that record in Nashville and asked me if he could take me or would like to take me on the Tonight Show. And I mean, obviously I was flabbergasted. He did that. I guested on the Tonight Show because of Jonathan, got to know him. Merv Griffin saw that show, asked me to stay over for another week and do his show. And at the end of that show, he said, did you ever think about being a game show host? And of course, I never had. And he said, I want you to meet some men who work with me. And so we went back to his office, and I met these guys who ran his business and asked if I would stay over another week or two and run this show in the office every day. And then he said he had a deal with NBC. So I did, and that was Wheel of Fortune. Believe it or not, that's how it happened.
I'm a huge fan of Jonathan Winters myself. That guy's hilarious. Your story, though, Mr. Woolery, that's just the great American success story, only in America.
A lot of people ask you how you get started. I mean, I was started in an area that I knew nothing about. But number one, I was willing. Number two, I was available. And number three, I had had a lot of experience being before people, entertaining them. So I wasn't uncomfortable, and I wasn't uncomfortable with myself. So that all kind of was part of why I think I was successful, plus the fact that I had the number one show on television for 7 years. I mean, exactly. Who in the world? That was just, luck, God's direction, whatever it was. But that was, that was just an incredible thing you couldn't count on.
But I think, too, you got to look at the definition of luck, which is when preparedness meets opportunity, and you were there and you were prepared.
I was prepared. Yeah, I was.
Definitely. Last week I did a video, and one of the themes on the show last week was the war on capitalism. And your story is, to me, really epitomizes what I was talking about there, because there's so many people right now that are, even some on the right, who are coming out saying, hey, we got to get these corporations under control. And they're saying that corporations aren't people. They're just like a nameless, faceless entity that's now somehow the enemy of the American people. And I think that is so dangerous, because if you take that away, the whole definition of luck goes away, because you can be prepared, but there won't be any opportunity.
Well, this is a straw man, like everything else. It's confusing. This is what the media does, and this is what politicians do. They direct you one way so that you won't see the other way. Obviously, we're a capitalist country. Yes. We're the most successful country in the world. We always have been, and we have the potential to always be. So what they do is they immediately confused crony capitalism, which is what politicians are involved in, with real capitalism, which is what the American people are involved in. So they are two very different things with very different results. And there probably will always be around, but it's the kind of thing that you regulate the best you can. And where there's opportunity, there are people who will step in and take that opportunity. They will also, the nature of man is to corrupt things, and so they will corrupt the system as best they can. And it's usually always in their interest, which is one of the reasons I'm for term limits. And the reason is because they just become corrupt after spending years and years in office. Our system is not bad. Washington is not broken. Washington is corrupt. And it's been corrupted by these politicians, not all of them. And I think most of them, by the way, are good people who go there trying to fix things, but they're just drawn into a web of corruption, crony capitalism, and a lot of other self-interest things that are not in the interest of the American people. And then they don't rule.
The legendary game show host Chuck Woolery, best known for being the host of the Wheel of Fortune. According to reports, he has passed on. TMZ confirmed. Chuck's long friend and podcast co-host Mark Young told TMZ that he was at Chuck's home in Texas when Chuck said he wasn't feeling well and went to lie down. Game show enthusiasts will be very familiar with Chuck's works, with Woolery's big break coming in 1975 when he became the first host of the Wheel of Fortune. We are sending our deepest condolences to the family, friends, and everyone who was very close to the legend. R.I.P. to the legend.